how should the modern CTO be thinking about their org structure?
I think there's a couple of dimensions, right? There's a question of like, one, what business are you in, right? If you're, not, again, in my mind, the foundational model business or the OS business, you should be very thoughtful about what part of your infrastructure is truly defensible, right? What part of your infrastructure and what part of your product suite is so difficult or painful to build that they're not just going to work around you at the end of the day and thus smush you as a piece of software. So there's like the business strategy component of it and product component of it. From a personnel and talent perspective, I think there's a honest truth of like how engaged are your teams and your people with the active development of LLMs, right? One thing that we had to do, and really what I spent a bunch of time initially doing earlier this year, is sitting down with all of our engineers and showing them how you could use, LLM coding, whether it be Cursor initially, and then it became Codex, and it became Cloud Code, and all these like different, LLM coding products. But it's a very active effort, and it's a question of how fast you need to move. I think most people need to move really fast, but you need to spend that active time and effort really pushing the product and usage to your team and coming up with a ultimate long-term strategy of how you're going to get everybody to use it and understand it in the right way. Because the way you think about LLMs and the way you utilize it is very different than traditional ways of working, right? One of the things I talk a lot about internally is initially the way that people thought about LLMs is, hey, it's a replacement for our ability to code and whatnot. Well, what they didn't consider is that usually the way people work is they actually think about the solution and then they write the code. And a lot of like the thought process of what am I going to figure out is in the code writing. Well, if LLMs are writing all this code, then you don't really have that interim step of actually thinking about it. And so you do a lot more of the planning part up front. And so it changes your work behavior, that changes how you actually go about things, and you have to sequence it differently.